Shabbat Shalom, everybody. All right, we're going to pick up from where we left off in the Book of Jasher. And this is the part that we're approaching where Esau, the sons of Esau, are going to war with the sons of the sons of Esau and the sons of Jacob will go to war. So that's where we're going to pick up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to pick up from where we left off. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And the part where we're going to pick up, ladies and gentlemen, is when the sons of Esau and the sons of Jacob go to war. That's where we're going to pick up. So I'm going to get it started because we got to go for at least a good hour and a half on this. And this is a phenomenal part of the Book of Jasher that I think you're going to really enjoy. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. All right, let me see if I can share my screen here. Oh, okay. Let me know if you can see my screen, everybody. Shabbat Shalom to everybody coming into the room. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Good. Good. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Just listen very closely to this part. This is when Esau sons go to battle with the 12 tribes, which are Jacob's sons. And this is a really interesting part. So let's go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a lot that's going to be covered.
And the Lord caused Jacob to find favor in the sight of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, and his men, and they hearkened to the voice of Jacob, and they did not put him to death. And Eliphaz and his men took all belonging to Jacob, together with the silver and gold that he had brought with him from Beersheba. They left him nothing. And Eliphaz and his men went away from him, and they returned to Esau to Beersheba, and they told him all that had occurred to them with Jacob, and they gave him all they had taken from Jacob. And Esau was indignant at Eliphaz his son, and at his men that were with him, because they had not put Jacob to death. And they answered and said unto Esau, Because Jacob supplicated us in this matter not to slay him. Our pity was excited toward him, and we took all belonging to him and brought it unto thee. And Esau took all the silver and gold which Eliphaz had taken from Jacob, and he put them by in his house. At that time, when Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and had commanded him, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife from amongst the daughters of Canaan, and that the daughters of Canaan were bad in the sight of Isaac and Rebekah, then he went to the house of Ishmael his uncle, and in addition to his other wives, he took Machlath, the daughter of Ishmael, the sister of Nebaioth, for a wife. Chapter 30. And Jacob went forth continuing his road to Haran, and he came as far as Mount Moriah, and he tarried there all night near the city of Luz. And the Lord appeared there unto Jacob on that night, and he said unto him, I am the Lord God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac thy father. The land upon which thou liest I will give unto thee and thy seed. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee wherever thou goest. And I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, And I will cause all thine enemies to fall before thee, and when they shall make war with thee, they shall not prevail over thee. And I will bring thee again unto this land with joy, with children, and with great riches. And Jacob awoke from his sleep, and he rejoiced greatly at the vision which he had seen, and he called the name of that place Bethel. And Jacob rose up from that place quite rejoiced. And when he walked, his feet felt light to him for joy. And he went from there to the land of the children of the east, and he returned to Haran, and he sat by the shepherd's well. And he there found some men going from Haran to feed their flock. And Jacob made inquiries of them. And they said, We are from Haran. And he said unto them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And behold, his daughter Rachel is coming along to feed her father's flock. Whilst he was yet speaking with them, Rachel, the daughter of Laban, came to feed her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, he ran and kissed her and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was the son of Rebekah, her father's sister. And Rachel ran and told her father. And Jacob continued to cry because he had nothing with him to bring to the house of Laban. And when Laban heard that his sister's son Jacob had come, he ran and kissed him, and embraced him, and brought him into the house, and gave him bread, and he ate. And Jacob related to Laban what his brother Esau had done to him, and what his son Eliphaz had done to him in the road. And Jacob resided in Laban's house for 1 month. And Jacob ate and drank in the house of Laban. And afterward Laban said unto Jacob, Tell me, what shall be thy wages, for how canst thou serve me for naught? And Laban had no sons, but only daughters, and his other wives and handmaids were still barren in those days. And these are the names of Laban's daughters, which his wife Adonah had borne unto him. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored, and Jacob loved her. And Jacob said unto Laban, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. And Laban consented to this, and Jacob served Laban 7 years for his daughter Rachel. And in the 2nd year of Jacob's dwelling in Haran, that is, in the 79th year of the life of Jacob, in that year died Eber the son of Selah. He was 464 years old at his death. And when Jacob heard that Eber was dead, he grieved exceedingly, and he lamented and mourned over him many days. And in the 3rd year of Jacob's dwelling in Haran, Basmath, the daughter of Ishmael, the wife of Esau, bare unto him a son, and Esau called his name Ruel. And in the 4th year of Jacob's residence in the house of Laban, the Lord visited Laban, and remembered him on account of Jacob. And sons were born unto him, and his firstborn was Beor, his second was Alib, and the third was Chorash. And the Lord gave Laban riches and honor, sons and daughters, and the man increased greatly on account of Jacob. And Jacob in those days served Laban in all manner of work, in the house and in the field. And the blessing of the Lord was in all that belonged to Laban in the house and in the field. And in the 5th year died Jehudith, the daughter of Beri, the wife of Esau, in the land of Canaan, and she had no sons but daughters only. And these are the names of her daughters, which she bare to Esau. The name of the elder was Marzith, and the name of the younger was Puith. And when Jehudith died, Esau rose up and went to Seir to hunt in the field as usual, and Esau dwelt in the land of Seir for a long time. And in the 6th year Esau took for a wife, in addition to his other wives, Alibama, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. And Esau brought her to the land of Canaan. And Alibama conceived and bare unto Esau 3 sons, Eush, Yalan, and Korah. And in those days in the land of Canaan there was a quarrel between the herdsmen of Esau and the herdsmen of the inhabitants of the land of Canaan. For Esau's cattle and goods were too abundant for him to remain in the land of Canaan, in his father's house, and the land of Canaan could not bear him on account of his cattle. And when Esau saw that his quarreling increased with the inhabitants of the land of Canaan, he rose up and took his wives, and his sons and his daughters, and all belonging to him, and the cattle which he possessed, and all his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and he went away from the inhabitants of the land to the land of Seir. And Esau and all belonging to him dwelt in the land of Seir. But from time to time Esau would go and see his father and mother in the land of Canaan. And Esau intermarried with the Horites, and he gave his daughters to the sons of Seir the Horite. And he gave his elder daughter Marzith to Anah, the son of Zibeon, his wife's brother, and Puath he gave to Azar, the son of Bilhan the Horite. And Esau dwelt in the mountain, he and his children, and they were fruitful and multiplied. Chapter 31. And in the 7th year Jacob's service which he served Laban was completed. And Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wife, for the days of my service are fulfilled. And Laban did so. And Laban and Jacob assembled all the people of that place, and they made a feast. And in the evening Laban came to the house, and afterward Jacob came there with the people of the feast. And Laban extinguished all the lights that were in the house. And Jacob said unto Laban, Wherefore dost thou do this thing unto us? And Laban answered, Such is our custom to act in this land. And afterward Laban took his daughter Leah, and he brought her to Jacob, and he came to her, and Jacob did not know she was Leah. And Laban gave his daughter Leah his maid Zilpah for a handmaid. And all the people at the feast knew what Laban had done to Jacob, but they did not tell the thing to Jacob. And all the neighbors came that night to Jacob's house. And they ate and drank and rejoiced, and played before Leah upon timbrels, and with dances. And they responded before Jacob, Holeah, Holeah. And Jacob heard their words, but did not understand their meaning, but he thought such might be their custom in this land. And the neighbors spoke these words before Jacob during the night, and all the lights that were in the house Laban had that night extinguished. And in the morning when daylight appeared, Jacob turned to his wife, and he saw, and behold, it was Leah that had been lying in his bosom. And Jacob said, Behold now, I know what the neighbors said last night. Leah, they said, and I knew it not. And Jacob called unto Laban, and said unto him, What is this that thou didst unto me? Surely I served thee for Rachel, and why didst thou deceive me, and didst give me Leah? And Laban answered Jacob, saying, Not so is it done in our place to give the younger before the elder. Now therefore, if thou desirest to take her sister likewise, take her unto thee for the service which thou wilt serve me for another 7 years. And Jacob did so, and he also took Rachel for a wife. And he served Laban 7 years more. And Jacob also came to Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah. And Laban gave her his maid Bilhah for a handmaid. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, the Lord opened her womb, and she conceived and bare Jacob 4 sons in those days. And these are their names: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. And she afterward left bearing. And at that time Rachel was barren, and she had no offspring. And Rachel envied her sister Leah. And when Rachel saw that she bare no children to Jacob, she took her handmaid Bilhah, and she bare Jacob 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she also took her handmaid Zilpah, and she gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Jacob also came to Zilpah, and she also bare Jacob 2 sons, Gad and Asher. And Leah again conceived and bare Jacob in those days 2 sons and 1 daughter. And these are their names: Issachar, Zebulun, and their sister Dinah. And Rachel was still barren in those days, and Rachel prayed unto the Lord at that time, and she said, O Lord God, remember me, and visit me, I beseech thee. For now my husband will cast me off, for I have borne him no children. Now, O Lord God, hear my supplication before thee, and see my affliction, and give me children like one of the handmaids, that I may no more bear my reproach. And God heard her, and opened her womb. And Rachel conceived and bare a son, and she said, The Lord has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, May the Lord add to me another son. And Jacob was 91 years old when she bare him. At that time Jacob's mother Rebekah sent her nurse Deborah, the daughter of Uz, and 2 of Isaac's servants unto Jacob. And they came to Jacob to Haran, and they said to him, Rebekah has sent us to thee, that thou shalt return to thy father's house to the land of Canaan. And Jacob hearkened unto them in this which his mother had spoken. At that time the other 7 years which Jacob served Laban for Rachel were completed, and it was at the end of 14 years that he had dwelt in Haran, that Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wives, and send me away, that I may go to my land, for behold, my mother did send unto me from the land of Canaan, that I should return to my father's house. And Laban said unto him, Not so, I pray thee. If I have found favor in thy sight, do not leave me. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give them, and remain with me. And Jacob said unto him, This is what thou shalt give me for wages, that I shall this day pass through all thy flock, and take away from them every lamb that is speckled and spotted, and such as are brown amongst the sheep and amongst the goats. And if thou wilt do this thing for me, I will return and feed thy flock, and keep them as at first. And Laban did so. And Laban removed from his flock all that Jacob had said, and gave them to him. And Jacob placed all that he had removed from Laban's flock in the hands of his sons, and Jacob was feeding the remainder of Laban's flock. And when the servants of Isaac, which he had sent unto Jacob, saw that Jacob would not then return with them to the land of Canaan to his father, they then went away from him, and they returned home to the land of Canaan. And Deborah remained with Jacob in Haran, and she did not return with the servants of Isaac to the land of Canaan. And Deborah resided with Jacob's wives and children in Haran. And Jacob served Laban 6 years longer, and when the sheep brought forth, Jacob removed from them such as were speckled and spotted, as he had determined with Laban. And Jacob did so at Laban's for 6 years. And the man increased abundantly, and he had cattle and maidservants and men servants, camels and asses. And Jacob had 200 drove of cattle, and his cattle were of large size and of beautiful appearance, and were very productive. And all the families of the sons of men desired to get some of the cattle of Jacob, for they were exceedingly prosperous. And many of the sons of men came to procure some of Jacob's flock, and Jacob gave them a sheep for a manservant, or a maidservant, or for an ass or a camel, or whatever Jacob desired from them, they gave him. And Jacob obtained riches and honor and possessions by means of these transactions with the sons of men, and the children of Laban envied him of this honor. And in the course of time he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's has he acquired all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and of his children, and behold, it was not toward him in those days as it had been before. And the Lord appeared to Jacob at the expiration of the 6 years, and said unto him, Arise, go forth out of this land, and return to the land of thy birthplace, and I will be with thee. And Jacob rose up at that time, and he mounted his children and his wife, and all belonging to him upon camels. And he went forth to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. And Laban did not know that Jacob had gone from him, for Laban had been that day sheep shearing. And Rachel stole her father's images, and she took them, and she concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat, and she went on. And this is the manner of the images. In taking a man who is the firstborn, and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and then taking salt, and salting the head, and anointing it in oil, then taking a small tablet of copper or a tablet of gold, and writing the name upon it, and placing the tablet under his tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, and lighting up lights before it, and bowing down to it. And at the time when they bow down to it, it speaketh to them in all matters that they ask of it, through the power of the name which is written in it. And some make them in the figures of men, of gold and silver, and go to them in times known to them, and the figures receive the influence of the stars, and tell them future things. And in this manner were the images which Rachel stole from her father. And Rachel stole those images which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. And Laban came home, and he asked concerning Jacob and his household, and he was not to be found. And Laban sought his images to know where Jacob had gone, and could not find them. And he went to some other images, and he inquired of them, and they told him that Jacob had fled from him to his fathers to the land of Canaan. And Laban then rose up, and he took his brothers and all his servants, and he went forth and pursued Jacob, and he overtook him in Mount Gilead. And Laban said unto Jacob, What is this thou hast done to me, to flee and to deceive me, and lead my daughters and their children as captives taken by the sword? And thou didst not suffer me to kiss them and send them away with joy, and thou didst steal my gods and didst go away. And Jacob answered Laban, saying, Because I was afraid lest thou wouldst take thy daughters by force from me. And now with whomsoever thou findest thy gods, he shall die. And Laban searched for the images, and he examined in all Jacob's tents and furniture, but could not find them. And Laban said unto Jacob, We will make a covenant together, and it shall be a testimony between me and thee. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or shalt take other wives besides my daughters, even God shall be a witness between me and thee in this matter. And they took stones and made a heap. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee. Therefore he called the name thereof Gilead. And Jacob and Laban offered sacrifice upon the mount, and they ate there by the heap. And they tarried in the mount all night. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and he wept with his daughters, and he kissed them, and he returned unto his place. And he hastened and sent off his son Beor, who was 17 years old, with Abichoroth the son of Uz, the son of Nahor, and with them were 10 men. And they hastened and went and passed on the road before Jacob, and they came by another road to the land of Seir. And they came unto Esau and said unto him, Thus saith thy brother and relative, thy mother's brother Laban, the son of Bethuel, saying, Hast thou heard what Jacob thy brother has done unto me, who first came to me naked and bare, and I went to meet him and brought him to my house with honor, and I made him great, and I gave him my 2 daughters for wives, and also 2 of my maids. And God blessed him on my account, and he increased abundantly, and had sons, daughters, and maidservants. He also has an immense stock of flocks, and herds, camels, and asses, also silver and gold in abundance. And when he saw that this wealth increased, he left me whilst I went to shear my sheep, and he rose up and fled in secrecy. And he lifted his wives and children upon camels, and he led away all his cattle and properties which he acquired in my land, and he lifted up his countenance to go to his father Isaac to the land of Canaan. And he did not suffer me to kiss my daughters and their children, and he led my daughters as captives taken by the sword, and he also stole my gods, and he fled. And now I have left him in the mountain of the brook of Jabbok, him and all belonging to him. He lacketh nothing. If it be thy wish to go to him, go then, and there wilt thou find him, and thou canst do unto him as thy soul desireth. And Laban's messengers came and told Esau all these things. And Esau heard all these words of Laban's messengers, and his anger was greatly kindled against Jacob. And he remembered his hatred, and his anger burned within him. And Esau hastened and took his children and servants and the souls of his household, being 60 men, and he went and assembled all the children of Seir the Horite and their people, being 340 men, and took all this number of 400 men with drawn swords, and he went unto Jacob to smite him. And Esau divided this number into several parts, and he took the 60 men of his children and servants and the souls of his household as one head, and gave them in care of Eliphaz his eldest son. And the remaining heads he gave to the care of the 6 sons of Seir the Horite, and he placed every man over his generations and children. And the whole of this camp went as it was, and Esau went amongst them toward Jacob, and he conducted them with speed. And Laban's messengers departed from Esau and went to the land of Canaan, and they came to the house of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And they told her, saying, Behold, thy son Esau is gone against his brother Jacob with 400 men, for he heard that he was coming, and he has gone to make war with him, and to smite him, and to take all that he has. And Rebekah hastened, and sent 72 men from the servants of Isaac to meet Jacob on the road. For she said, peradventure Esau may make war in the road when he meets him. And these messengers went on the road to meet Jacob, and they met him in the road of the brook on the opposite side of the brook Jabbok. And Jacob said when he saw them, This camp is destined to me from God. And Jacob called the name of that place Machnaim. And Jacob knew all his father's people, and he kissed them and embraced them and came with them. And Jacob asked them concerning his father and mother, and they said they were well. And these messengers said unto Jacob, Rebekah thy mother has sent us to thee, saying, I have heard, my son, that thy brother Esau is gone forth against thee on the road with men from the children of Seir the Horite. And therefore, my son, hearken to my voice, and see with thy counsel what thou wilt do. And when he cometh up to thee, supplicate him, and do not speak rashly to him, and give him a present from what thou possessest, and from what God has favored thee with. And when he asketh thee concerning thy affairs, conceal nothing from him. Perhaps he may turn from his anger against thee, and thou wilt thereby save thy soul, thou and all belonging to thee, for it is thy duty to honor him, for he is thy elder brother. And when Jacob heard the word of his mother, which the messengers had spoken to him, Jacob lifted up his voice and wept bitterly, and did as his mother then commanded him. Chapter 32. And at that time Jacob sent messengers to his brother Esau toward the land of Seir, and he spoke to him words of supplication. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye say to my lord, to Esau, Thus saith thy servant Jacob, Let not my lord imagine that my father's blessing with which he did bless me has proved beneficial to me. For I have been these 20 years with Laban, and he deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, as it has all been already told unto my lord. And I served him in his house very laboriously, and God afterwards saw my affliction, my labor, and the work of my hands, and he caused me to find grace and favor in his sight. And I afterward, through God's great mercy and kindness, acquired oxen and asses and cattle, and men servants and maid servants. And now I am coming to my land and my home, to my father and mother, who are in the land of Canaan. And I have sent to let my lord know all this in order to find favor in the sight of my lord, so that he may not imagine that I have of myself obtained wealth, or that the blessing with which my father blessed me has benefited me. And those messengers went to Esau, and found him on the borders of the land of Edom, going toward Jacob. And 400 men of the children of Seir the Horite were standing with drawn swords. And the messengers of Jacob told Esau all the words that Jacob had spoken to them concerning Esau. And Esau answered them with pride and contempt, and said unto them, Surely I have heard, and truly it has been told unto me what Jacob has done to Laban, who exalted him in his house, and gave him his daughters for wives. And he begat sons and daughters, and abundantly increased in wealth and riches in Laban's house through his means. And when he saw that his wealth was abundant, and his riches great, he fled with all belonging to him from Laban's house, and he led Laban's daughters away from the face of their father as captives taken by the sword, without telling him of it. And not only to Laban has Jacob done thus, but also unto me has he done so, and has twice supplanted me. And shall I be silent? Now therefore I have this day come with my camps to meet him, and I will do unto him according to the desire of my heart. And the messengers returned, and came to Jacob, and said unto him, We came to thy brother Esau, and we told him all thy words, and thus he has answered us. And behold, he cometh to meet thee with 400 men. Now then, know and see what thou shalt do, and pray before God to deliver thee from him. And when he heard the words of his brother which he had spoken to the messengers of Jacob, Jacob was greatly afraid, and he was distressed. And Jacob prayed to the Lord his God, and he said, O Lord God of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, thou didst say unto me when I went away from my father's house, saying, I am the Lord God of thy father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. Unto thee do I give this land, and thy seed after thee, and I will make thy seed as the stars of heaven. And thou shalt spread forth to the 4 sides of heaven, and in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And thou didst establish thy words, and didst give unto me riches, and children, and cattle, as the utmost wishes of my heart didst thou give unto thy servant. Thou didst give unto me all that I asked from thee, so that I lacked nothing. And thou didst afterwards say unto me, Return to thy parents and to thy birthplace, and I will still do well with thee. And now that I have come, and thou didst deliver me from Laban, I shall fall in the hands of Esau, who will slay me, yea, together with the mothers of my children. Now therefore, O Lord God, deliver me, I pray thee also, from the hands of my brother Esau, for I am greatly afraid of him. And if there is no righteousness in me, do it for the sake of Abraham and my father Isaac. For I know that through kindness and mercy have I acquired this wealth. Now therefore I beseech thee to deliver me this day with thy kindness, and to answer me. And Jacob ceased praying to the Lord, and he divided the people who were with him with the flocks and cattle into 2 camps. And he gave the half to the care of Damasek, the son of Eleazar, Abraham's servant, for a camp with his children, and the other half he gave to the care of his brother Elianas, the son of Eleazar, to be for a camp with his children. And he commanded them, saying, Keep yourselves at a distance with your camps, and do not come too near each other. And if Esau come to one camp and slay it, the other camp at a distance from it will escape him. And Jacob tarried there that night, and during the whole night he gave his servants instructions concerning the forces and his children. And the Lord heard the prayer of Jacob on that day, and the Lord then delivered Jacob from the hands of his brother Esau. And the Lord sent 3 angels of the angels of heaven, and they went before Esau and came to him. And these angels appeared unto Esau and his people as 2,000 men riding upon horses, furnished with all sorts of war instruments. And they appeared in the sight of Esau and all his men, to be divided into 4 camps, with 4 chiefs to them. And one camp went on, and they found Esau coming with 400 men toward his brother Jacob. And this camp ran toward Esau and his people, and terrified them. And Esau fell off the horse in alarm, and all his men separated from him in that place, for they were greatly afraid. And the whole of the camp shouted after them when they fled from Esau, and all the warlike men answered, saying, Surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of God, and who then can stand against us? And Esau said unto them, O then my lord and brother Jacob is your lord, who I have not seen for these 20 years, and now that I have this day come to see him, do you treat me in this manner? And the angels answered him, saying, As the Lord liveth, were not Jacob, of whom thou spokest, thy brother, we had not left one remaining from thee and thy people, but only on account of Jacob we will do nothing to them. And this camp passed from Esau and his men, and it went away. And Esau and his men had gone from them about a league, when the second camp came toward him with all sorts of weapons. And they also did unto Esau and his men as the first camp had done to them. And when they had left it to go on, behold, the third camp came toward him, and they were all terrified. And Esau fell off the horse, and the whole camp cried out and said, Surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of God, and who can stand against us? And Esau again answered them, saying, O then, Jacob my lord and your lord is my brother. And for 20 years I have not seen his countenance. And hearing this day that he was coming, I went this day to meet him. And do you treat me in this manner? And they answered him and said unto him, As the Lord liveth, were not Jacob thy brother, as thou didst say, we had not left a remnant from thee and thy men, but on account of Jacob, of whom thou spokest, being thy brother, we will not meddle with thee or thy men. And the third camp also passed from them, and he still continued his road with his men toward Jacob. When the fourth camp came toward him, and they also did unto him and his men as the others had done. And when Esau beheld the evil which the 4 angels had done to him and to his men, he became greatly afraid of his brother Jacob, and he went to meet him in peace. And Esau concealed his hatred against Jacob, because he was afraid of his life on account of his brother Jacob, and because he imagined that the 4 camps that he had lighted upon were Jacob's servants. And Jacob tarried that night with his servants in their camps, and he resolved with his servants to give unto Esau a present from all that he had with him, and from all his property. And Jacob rose up in the morning, he and his men, and they chose from amongst the cattle a present for Esau. And this is the amount of the present which Jacob chose from his flock to give unto his brother Esau. And he selected 240 head from the flocks. And he selected from the camels and asses 30 each, and of the herds he chose 50 kine. And he put them all in 10 droves, and he placed each sort by itself, and he delivered them into the hands of 10 of his servants, each drove by itself. And he commanded them and said unto them, Keep yourselves at a distance from each other, and put a space between the droves. And when Esau and those who are with him shall meet you and ask you, saying, Whose are you, and whither do you go? And to whom belongeth all this before you? You shall say unto them, We are the servants of Jacob, and we have come to meet Esau in peace. And behold, Jacob cometh behind us. And that which is before us is a present sent from Jacob to his brother Esau. And if they shall say unto you, Why doth he delay behind you from coming to meet his brother and to see his face? Then you shall say unto them, Surely he cometh joyfully behind us to meet his brother. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goeth to him, and after this I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept of me. So the whole present passed on in the hands of his servants, and went before him on that day. And he lodged that night with his camps by the border of the brook of Jabbok. And he rose up in the midst of the night, and he took his wives and his maidservants, and all belonging to him, and he that night passed them over the ford Jabbok. And when he had passed all belonging to him over the brook, Jacob was left by himself, and a man met him, and he wrestled with him that night until the breaking of the day. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint through wrestling with him. And at the break of day the man left Jacob there, and he blessed him and went away. And Jacob passed the brook at the break of day, and he halted upon his thigh. And the sun rose upon him when he had passed the brook, and he came to the place of his cattle and children. And they went on until midday, and whilst they were going, the present was passing on before them. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was at a distance, coming along with many men, about 400, and Jacob was greatly afraid of his brother. And Jacob hastened and divided his children unto his wives and his handmaids, and his daughter Dinah he put in a chest, and delivered her into the hands of his servants. And he passed before his children and wives to meet his brother. And he bowed down to the ground, yea, he bowed down 7 times until he approached his brother. And God caused Jacob to find grace and favor in the sight of Esau and his men, for God had heard the prayer of Jacob. And the fear of Jacob and his terror fell upon his brother Esau, for Esau was greatly afraid of Jacob for what the angels of God had done to Esau, and Esau's anger against Jacob was turned into kindness. And when Esau saw Jacob running toward him, he also ran toward him, and he embraced him, and he fell upon his neck, and they kissed, and they wept. And God put fear and kindness toward Jacob in the hearts of the men that came with Esau, and they also kissed Jacob and embraced him. And also Eliphaz the son of Esau with his 4 brothers, sons of Esau, wept with Jacob, and they kissed him and embraced him, for the fear of Jacob had fallen upon them all. And Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women with their offspring, the children of Jacob, walking behind Jacob and bowing along the road to Esau. And Esau said unto Jacob, Who are these with thee, my brother? Are they thy children or thy servants? And Jacob answered Esau and said, They are my children, which God hath graciously given to thy servant. And whilst Jacob was speaking to Esau and his men, Esau beheld the whole camp, and he said unto Jacob, Whence didst thou get the whole of the camp that I met yesternight? And Jacob said, To find favor in the sight of my Lord, it is that which God graciously gave to thy servant. And the present came before Esau, and Jacob pressed Esau, saying, Take, I pray thee, the present that I have brought to my Lord. And Esau said, Wherefore is this my purpose? Keep that which thou hast unto thyself. And Jacob said, It is incumbent upon me to give all this, since I have seen thy face, that thou still livest in peace. And Esau refused to take the present. And Jacob said unto him, I beseech thee, my Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand. For I have therefore seen thy face as though I had seen a godlike face, because thou wast pleased with me. And Esau took the present, and Jacob also gave unto Esau silver and gold and bdellium, for he pressed him so much that he took them. And Esau divided the cattle that was in the camp, and he gave the half to the men who had come with him, for they had come on hire, and the other half he delivered unto the hands of his children. And the silver and gold and bdellium he gave in the hands of Eliphaz his eldest son. And Esau said unto Jacob, Let us remain with thee, and we will go slowly along with thee until thou comest to my place with me, that we may dwell there together. And Jacob answered his brother and said, I would do as my Lord speaketh unto me, but my Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and that the flocks and herds with their young who are with me go but slowly. For if they went swiftly, they would all die, for thou knowest their burdens and their fatigue. Therefore let my Lord pass on before his servant, and I will go on slowly for the sake of the children and the flock, until I come to my Lord's place to Seir. And Esau said unto Jacob, I will place with thee some of the people that are with me to take care of thee in the road, and to bear thy fatigue and burden. And he said, What needeth it, my Lord, if I may find grace in thy sight? Behold, I will come unto thee to Seir, to dwell there together, as thou hast spoken. Go thou then with thy people, for I will follow thee. And Jacob said this to Esau in order to remove Esau and his men from him, so that Jacob might afterward go to his father's house to the land of Canaan. And Esau hearkened to the voice of Jacob, and Esau returned with the 400 men that were with him on their road to Seir. And Jacob and all belonging to him went that day as far as the extremity of the land of Canaan in its borders, and he remained there some time. Chapter 33. And in some time after Jacob went away from the borders of the land, and he came to the land of Shechem, that is the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, and he rested in front of the city. And he bought a parcel of the field which was there from the children of Hamor, the people of the land, for 5 shekels. And Jacob there built himself a house, and he pitched his tent there, and he made booths for his cattle. Therefore he called the name of the place Succoth. And Jacob remained in Succoth 1 year and 6 months. At that time some of the women of the inhabitants of the land went to the city of Shechem to dance and rejoice with the daughters of the people of the city. And when they went forth, then Rachel and Leah, the wives of Jacob with their families, also went to behold the rejoicing of the daughters of the city. And Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, also went along with them, and saw the daughters of the city. And they remained there before these daughters, whilst all the people of the city were standing by them to behold their rejoicings, and all the great people of the city were there. And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the prince of the land, was also standing there to see them. And Shechem beheld Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, sitting with her mother before the daughters of the city, and the damsel pleased him greatly. And he there asked his friends and his people, saying, Whose daughter is that sitting amongst the women, whom I do not know in this city? And they said unto him, Surely this is the daughter of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the Hebrew, who has dwelt in this city for some time. And when it was reported that the daughters of the land were going forth to rejoice, she went with her mother and maidservants to sit amongst them, as thou seest. And Shechem beheld Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and when he looked at her, his soul became fixed upon Dinah. And he sent and had her taken by force. And Dinah came to the house of Shechem, and he seized her forcibly, and lay with her, and humbled her. And he loved her exceedingly, and placed her in his house. And they came and told the thing unto Jacob. And when Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter Dinah, Jacob sent 12 of his servants to fetch Dinah from the house of Shechem. And they went and came to the house of Shechem to take away Dinah from there. And when they came, Shechem went out to them with his men, and drove them from his house. And he would not suffer them to come before Dinah. But Shechem was sitting with Dinah, kissing and embracing her before their eyes. And the servants of Jacob came back and told him, saying, When we came, he and his men drove us away, and thus did Shechem do unto Dinah before our eyes. And Jacob knew moreover that Shechem had defiled his daughter, but he said nothing. And his sons were feeding his cattle in the field, and Jacob remained silent till their return. And before his sons came home, Jacob sent 2 maidens from his servants' daughters to take care of Dinah in the house of Shechem, to remain with her. And Shechem sent 3 of his friends to his father Hamor, the son of Shechem, the son of Pered, saying, Get me this damsel for a wife. And Hamor, the son of Shechem the Hivite, came to the house of Shechem his son, and he sat before him. And Hamor said unto his son Shechem, Is there then no woman amongst the daughters of thy people that thou wilt take an Hebrew woman who is not of thy people? And Shechem said to him, Her only must thou get for me, for she is delightful in my sight. And Hamor did according to the word of his son, for he was greatly beloved by him. And Hamor went forth to Jacob to commune with him concerning this matter. And when he had gone from the house of his son Shechem, before he came to Jacob to speak unto him, behold, the sons of Jacob had come from the field, as soon as they heard the thing that Shechem the son of Hamor had done. And the men were very much grieved concerning their sister, and they all came home fired with anger, before the time of gathering in their cattle. And they came and sat before their father. And they spoke unto him, kindled with wrath, saying, Surely death is due to this man and to his household, because the Lord God of the whole earth commanded Noah and his children that man shall never rob nor commit adultery. Now behold, Shechem has both ravaged and committed fornication with our sister, and not one of all the people of the city spoke a word to him. Surely thou knowest and understandest that the judgment of death is due to Shechem and to his father and to the whole city on account of the thing which he has done. And whilst they were speaking before their father in this matter, behold, Hamor the father of Shechem came to speak to Jacob the words of his son concerning Dinah. And he sat before Jacob and before his sons. And Hamor spoke unto him, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her unto him for a wife, and intermarry with us. Give us your daughters, and we will give you our daughters, and you shall dwell with us in our land, and we will be as one people in the land. For the land is very extensive, so dwell ye, and trade therein, and get possessions in it, and do therein as you desire, and no one shall prevent you by saying a word to you. And Hamor ceased speaking unto Jacob and his sons, and behold, Shechem his son had come after him, and he sat before them. And Shechem spoke before Jacob and his sons, saying, May I find favor in your sight that you will give me your daughter, and whatever you say unto me, that will I do for her. Ask me for abundance of dowry and gift, and I will give it. And whatever you shall say unto me, that will I do, and whoever he be that will rebel against your orders, he shall die. Only give me the damsel for a wife. And Simeon and Levi answered Hamor and Shechem his son deceitfully, saying, All you have spoken unto us we will do for you. And behold, our sister is in your house. But keep away from her until we send to our father Isaac concerning this matter, for we can do nothing without his consent. For he knoweth the ways of our father Abraham, and whatever he saith unto us we will tell you. We will conceal nothing from you. And Simeon and Levi spoke this unto Shechem and his father in order to find a pretext, and to seek counsel what has to be done to Shechem and to his city in this matter. And when Shechem and his father heard the words of Simeon and Levi, it seemed good in their sight, and Shechem and his father came forth to go home. And when they had gone, the sons of Jacob said unto their father, saying, Behold, we know that death is due to these wicked ones and to their city, because they transgressed that which God had commanded unto Noah and his children and his seed after them. And also because Shechem did this thing to our sister Dinah in defiling her, for such vileness shall never be done amongst us. Now therefore know and see what you will do, and seek counsel and pretext what is to be done to them in order to kill all the inhabitants of this city. And Simeon said to them, Here is a proper advice for you. Tell them to circumcise every male amongst them as we are circumcised. And if they do not wish to do this, we shall take our daughter from them and go away. And if they consent to do this, and will do it, then when they are sunk down with pain, we will attack them with our swords, as upon one who is quiet and peaceable, and we will slay every male person amongst them. And Simeon's advice pleased them, and Simeon and Levi resolved to do unto them as it was proposed. And on the next morning Shechem and Hamor his father came again unto Jacob and his sons to speak concerning Dinah, and to hear what answer the sons of Jacob would give to their words. And the sons of Jacob spoke deceitfully to them, saying, We told our father Isaac all your words, and your words pleased him. But he spoke unto us, saying, Thus did Abraham his father command him from God the Lord of the whole earth, that any man who is not of his descendants that should wish to take one of his daughters shall cause every male belonging to him to be circumcised, as we are circumcised, and then we may give him our daughter for a wife. Now we have made known to you all our ways that our father spoke unto us, for we cannot do this of which you spoke unto us, to give our daughter to an uncircumcised man, for it is a disgrace to us. But herein we will consent to you to give you our daughter, and we will also take unto ourselves your daughters, and will dwell amongst you and be one people as you have spoken, if you will hearken to us and consent to be like us, to circumcise every male belonging to you, as we are circumcised. And if you will not hearken unto us to have every male circumcised as we are circumcised, as we have commanded, then we will come to you and take our daughter from you and go away. And Shechem and his father Hamor heard the words of the sons of Jacob, and the thing pleased them exceedingly. And Shechem and his father Hamor hastened to do the wishes of the sons of Jacob, for Shechem was very fond of Dinah, and his soul was riveted to her. And Shechem and his father Hamor hastened to the gate of the city, and they assembled all the men of their city and spoke unto them the words of the sons of Jacob, saying, We came to these men, the sons of Jacob, and we spoke unto them concerning their daughter. And these men will consent to do according to our wishes, and behold, our land is of a great extent for them, and they will dwell in it and trade in it, and we shall be one people. We will take their daughters, and our daughters we will give unto them for wives. But only on this condition will these men consent to do this thing, that every male amongst us be circumcised as they are circumcised, as their God commanded them. And when we shall have done according to their instructions to be circumcised, then will they dwell amongst us, together with their cattle and possessions, and we shall be as one people with them. And when all the men of the city heard the words of Shechem and his father Hamor, then all the men of their city were agreeable to this proposal, and they obeyed to be circumcised. For Shechem and his father Hamor were greatly esteemed by them, being the princes of the land. And on the next day Shechem and Hamor his father rose up early in the morning, and they assembled all the men of their city into the middle of the city, and they called for the sons of Jacob, who circumcised every male belonging to them on that day and the next. And they circumcised Shechem and Hamor his father, and the 5 brothers of Shechem, and then every one rose up and went home, for this thing was from the Lord against the city of Shechem, and from the Lord was Simeon's counsel in this matter, in order that the Lord might deliver the city of Shechem into the hands of Jacob's 2 sons. Chapter 34. And the number of all the males that were circumcised were 645 men, and 246 children. But Shechem, son of Pered, the father of Hamor, and his 6 brothers would not listen unto Shechem and his father Hamor, and they would not be circumcised. For the proposal of the sons of Jacob was loathsome in their sight, and their anger was greatly roused at this, that the people of the city had not hearkened to them. And in the evening of the 2nd day they found 8 small children who had not been circumcised, for their mothers had concealed them from Shechem and his father Hamor, and from the men of the city. And Shechem and his father Hamor sent to have them brought before them to be circumcised, when Shechem and his 6 brothers sprang at them with their swords and sought to slay them. And they sought to slay also Shechem and his father Hamor, and they sought to slay Dinah with them on account of this matter. And they said unto them, What is this thing that you have done? Are there no women amongst the daughters of your brethren the Canaanites, that you wish to take unto yourselves the daughter of the Hebrews, whom you knew not before, and will do this act which our fathers never commanded you? Do you imagine that you will succeed through this act which you have done? And what will you answer in this affair to your brethren the Canaanites, who will come tomorrow and ask you concerning this thing? And if your act shall not appear just and good in their sight, what will you do for your lives, and we for our lives, in your not having hearkened to our voices? And if the inhabitants of the land and all your brethren, the children of Ham, shall hear of your act, saying, on account of a Hebrew woman did Shechem and Hamor his father and all the inhabitants of their city do that which they had been unacquainted and which their ancestors never commanded them. Where then will you fly, and where conceal your shame, all your days before your brethren, the inhabitants of the land of Canaan? Now therefore we cannot bear up against this thing which you have done, neither can we be burthened with this yoke upon us which our ancestors did not command us. Behold, tomorrow we will go and assemble all our brethren, the Canaanitish brethren who dwell in the land, and we will all come and smite you and all those who trust in you, that there shall not be a remnant left from you or them. And when Hamor and his son Shechem and all the people of the city heard the words of Shechem and his brothers, they were terribly afraid of their lives at their words, and they repented of what they had done. And Shechem and his father Hamor answered their father Shechem and his brethren, and they said unto them, All the words which you spoke unto us are true. Now do not say nor imagine in your hearts that on account of the love of the Hebrews we did this thing that our ancestors did not command us. But because we saw that it was not their intention and desire to accede to our wishes concerning their daughter as to our taking her, except on this condition, so we hearkened to their voices and did this act which you saw, in order to obtain our desire from them. And when we shall have obtained our request from them, we will then return to them and do unto them that which you say unto us. We beseech you then to wait and tarry until our flesh shall be healed, and we again become strong, and we will then go together against them, and do unto them that which is in your hearts and in ours. And Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, heard all these words which Shechem and his brothers had spoken, and what Hamor and his son Shechem and the people of their city had answered them. And she hastened and sent one of her maidens that her father had sent to take care of her in the house of Shechem, to Jacob her father and to her brethren, saying, Thus did Shechem and his brothers advise concerning you, and thus did Hamor and Shechem and the people of the city answer them. And when Jacob heard these words, he was filled with wrath, and he was indignant at them, and his anger was kindled against them. And Simeon and Levi swore and said, As the Lord liveth, the God of the whole earth, by this time tomorrow there shall not be a remnant left in the whole city. And 20 young men had concealed themselves who were not circumcised. And these young men fought against Simeon and Levi, and Simeon and Levi killed 18 of them, and 2 fled from them and escaped to some lime pits that were in the city. And Simeon and Levi sought for them, but could not find them. And Simeon and Levi continued to go about in the city, and they killed all the people of the city at the edge of the sword, and they left none remaining. And there was a great consternation in the midst of the city, and the cry of the people of the city ascended to heaven, and all the women and children cried aloud. And Simeon and Levi slew all the city. They left not a male remaining in the whole city. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son at the edge of the sword, and they brought away Dinah from the house of Shechem, and they went from there. And the sons of Jacob went and returned, and came upon the slain, and spoiled all their property which was in the city and the field. And whilst they were taking the spoil, 300 men stood up and threw dust at them, and struck them with stones. When Simeon turned to them, and he slew them all with the edge of the sword, and Simeon turned before Levi, and came into the city. And they took away their sheep and their oxen and their cattle, and also the remainder of the women and little ones, and they led all these away. And they opened a gate and went out and came unto their father Jacob with vigor. And when Jacob saw all that they had done to the city, and saw the spoil that they took from them, Jacob was very angry at them. And Jacob said unto them, What is this that you have done to me? Behold, I obtained rest amongst the Canaanitish inhabitants of the land, and none of them meddled with me. And now you have done to make me obnoxious to the inhabitants of the land, amongst the Canaanites and the Perizzites? And I am but of a small number, and they will all assemble against me, and slay me when they hear of your work with their brethren, and I and my household will be destroyed. And Simeon and Levi and all their brothers with them answered their father Jacob, and said unto him, Behold, we live in the land, and shall Shechem do this to our sister? Why art thou silent at all that Shechem has done? And shall he deal with our sister as with a harlot in the streets? And the number of women whom Simeon and Levi took captives from the city of Shechem, whom they did not slay, was 85, who had not known man. And amongst them was a young damsel of beautiful appearance and well favored, whose name was Bunah. And Simeon took her for a wife. And the number of the males which they took captives and did not slay was 47 men, and the rest they slew. And all the young men and women that Simeon and Levi had taken captives from the city of Shechem were servants to the sons of Jacob and to their children after them, until the day of the sons of Jacob going forth from the land of Egypt. And when Simeon and Levi had gone forth from the city, the 2 young men that were left, who had concealed themselves in the city and did not die amongst the people of the city, rose up. And these young men went into the city and walked about in it, and found the city desolate, without a man, and only women weeping. And these young men cried out and said, Behold, this is the evil which the sons of Jacob the Hebrew did to this city, in their having this day destroyed one of the Canaanitish cities, and were not afraid of their lives of all the land of Canaan. And these men left the city and went to the city of Tapnach, and they came there and told the inhabitants of Tapnach all that had befallen them, and all that the sons of Jacob had done to the city of Shechem. And the information reached Jashub, king of Tapnach, and he sent men to the city of Shechem to see those young men, for the king did not believe them in this account, saying, How could 2 men lay waste such a large town as Shechem? And the messengers of Jashub came back and told him, saying, We came into the city, and it is destroyed. There is not a man there, only weeping women. Neither is any flock or cattle there, for all that was in the city the sons of Jacob took away. And Jashub wondered at this, saying, How could 2 men do this thing to destroy so large a city, and not one man able to stand against them? For the like has not been from the days of Nimrod, and not even from the remotest time has the like taken place. And Jashub, king of Tapnach, said to his people, Be courageous, and we will go and fight against these Hebrews, and do unto them as they did unto the city, and we will avenge the cause of the people of the city. And Jashub, king of Tapnach, consulted with his counselors about this matter, and his advisers said unto him, Alone thou wilt not prevail over the Hebrews, for they must be powerful to do this work to the whole city. If 2 of them laid waste the whole city, and no one stood against them, surely if thou wilt go against them, they will all rise against us and destroy us likewise. But if thou wilt send to all the kings that surround us, and let them come together, then we will go with them and fight against the sons of Jacob. Then wilt thou prevail against them. And Jashub heard the words of his counselors, and their words pleased him and his people, and he did so. And Jashub, king of Tapnach, sent to all the kings of the Amorites that surrounded Shechem and Tapnach, saying, Go up with me, and assist me, and we will smite Jacob the Hebrew and all his sons, and destroy them from the earth. For thus did he do to the city of Shechem. And do you not know of it? And all the kings of the Amorites heard the evil that the sons of Jacob had done to the city of Shechem, and they were greatly astonished at them. And the 7 kings of the Amorites assembled with all their armies, about 10,000 men with drawn swords, and they came to fight against the sons of Jacob. And Jacob heard that the kings of the Amorites had assembled to fight against his sons, and Jacob was greatly afraid, and it distressed him. And Jacob exclaimed against Simeon and Levi, saying, What is this act that you did? Why have you injured me, to bring against me all the children of Canaan, to destroy me and my household? For I was at rest, even I and my household, and you have done this thing to me, and provoked the inhabitants of the land against me by your proceedings. And Judah answered his father, saying, Was it for naught my brothers Simeon and Levi killed all the inhabitants of Shechem? Surely it was because Shechem had humbled our sister, and transgressed the command of our God to Noah and his children. For Shechem took our sister away by force and committed adultery with her. And Shechem did all this evil, and not one of the inhabitants of his city interfered with him to say, Why wilt thou do this? Surely for this my brothers went and smote the city, and the Lord delivered it into their hands, because its inhabitants had transgressed the commands of our God. Is it then for naught that they have done all this? And now why art thou afraid or distressed? And why art thou displeased at my brothers? And why is thine anger kindled against them? Surely our God, who delivered into their hand the city of Shechem and its people, he will also deliver into our hands all the Canaanitish kings who are coming against us. And we will do unto them as my brothers did unto Shechem. Now be tranquil about them, and cast away thy fears. But trust in the Lord our God, and pray unto him to assist us, and deliver our enemies into our hands. And Judah called to one of his father's servants, Go now and see where those kings who are coming against us are situated with their armies. And the servant went and looked afar off, and went up opposite Mount Sihon, and saw all the camps of the kings standing in the fields. And he returned to Judah and said, Behold, the kings are situated in the field with all their camps, a people exceedingly numerous, like unto sand upon the seashore. And Judah said unto Simeon and Levi, and unto all his brothers, Strengthen yourselves, and be sons of valor, for the Lord our God is with us. Do not fear them. Stand forth each man girt with his weapons of war, his bow and his sword, and we will go and fight against these uncircumcised men. The Lord is our God, he will save us. And they rose up, and each girt on his weapon of war, great and small, 11 sons of Jacob, and all the servants of Jacob with them. And all the servants of Isaac, who were with Isaac in Hebron, all came to them equipped in all sorts of war instruments. And the sons of Jacob and their servants, being 112 men, went toward these kings, and Jacob also went with them. And the sons of Jacob sent unto their father Isaac, the son of Abraham, to Hebron, the same is Kibroth Arba, saying, Pray, we beseech thee for us unto the Lord our God, to protect us from the hands of the Canaanites who are coming against us, and to deliver them into our hands. And Isaac the son of Abraham prayed unto the Lord for his sons. And he said, O Lord God, thou didst promise my father, saying, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven. And thou didst also promise me. And establish thou thy word now that the kings of Canaan are coming together to make war with my children, because they committed no violence. Now therefore, O Lord God, God of the whole earth, pervert, I pray thee, the counsel of these kings, that they may not fight against my sons. And impress the hearts of these kings and their people with the terror of my sons, and bring down their pride, and that they may turn away from my sons. And with thy strong hand and outstretched arm deliver my sons and their servants from them, for power and might are in thy hands to do all this. And the sons of Jacob and their servants went towards these kings, and they trusted in the Lord their God. And whilst they were going, Jacob their father also prayed unto the Lord, and said, O Lord God, powerful and exalted God, who hast reigned from days of old, from thence till now and forever. Thou art he who stirreth up wars, and causeth them to cease. In thy hand are power and might to exalt and to bring down. O may my prayer be acceptable before thee, that thou mayest turn to me with thy mercies, to impress the hearts of these kings and their people with the terror of my sons, and terrify them and their camps, and with thy great kindness deliver all those that trust in thee, for it is thou who canst bring people under us and reduce nations under our power. Chapter 35. And all the kings of the Amorites came and took their stand in the field to consult with their counselors what was to be done with the sons of Jacob. For they were still afraid of them, saying, Behold, 2 of them slew the whole city of Shechem. And the Lord heard the prayers of Isaac and Jacob, and he filled the hearts of all these kings' advisers with great fear and terror, that they unanimously exclaimed, Are you silly this day, or is there no understanding in you, that you will fight with the Hebrews? And why will you take a delight in your own destruction this day? Behold, 2 of them came to the city of Shechem without fear or terror, and they killed all the inhabitants of the city, that no man stood up against them. And how will you be able to fight with them all? Surely you know that their God is exceedingly fond of them, and has done mighty things for them, such as have not been done from the days of old. And amongst all the gods of nations there is none can do like unto his mighty deeds. Surely he delivered their father Abraham, the Hebrew, from the hand of Nimrod, and from the hand of all his people who had many times sought to slay him. He delivered him also from the fire in which King Nimrod had cast him, and his God delivered him from it. And who else can do the like? Surely it was Abraham who slew the 5 kings of Elam when they had touched his brother's son, who in those days dwelt in Sodom, and took his servant that was faithful in his house, and a few of his men, and they pursued the kings of Elam in one night, and killed them, and restored to his brother's son all his property which they had taken from him. And surely you know the God of these Hebrews is much delighted with them, and they are also delighted with him, for they know that he delivered them from all their enemies. And behold, through his love toward God, Abraham took his only and precious son and intended to bring him up as a burnt offering to his God. And had it not been for God who prevented him from doing this, he would then have done it through his love to his God. And God saw all his works, and swore unto him, and promised him that he would deliver his sons and all his seed from every trouble that would befall them, because he had done this thing, and through his love to his God stifled his compassion for his child. And have you not heard what their God did to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to Abimelech, king of Gerar? Through taking Abraham's wife, who said of her, "She is my sister," lest they might slay him on account of her, and think of taking her for a wife. And God did unto them and their people all that you heard of. And behold, we ourselves saw with our eyes that Esau, the brother of Jacob, came to him with 400 men, with the intention of slaying him, for he called to mind that he had taken away from him his father's blessing. And he went to meet him when he came from Syria to smite the mother with the children. And who delivered him from his hands, but his God in whom he trusted? He delivered him from the hand of his brother, and also from the hands of his enemies, and surely he again will protect them. Who does not know that it was their God who inspired them with strength to do to the town of Shechem the evil which you heard of? Could it then be with their own strength that 2 men could destroy such a large city as Shechem, had it not been for their God in whom they trusted? He said and did unto them all this to slay the inhabitants of the city in their city. And can you then prevail over them who have come forth together from your city to fight with the whole of them? Even if 1,000 times as many more should come to your assistance. Surely you know and understand that you do not come to fight with them, but you come to war with their God, who made choice of them, and you have therefore all come this day to be destroyed. Now therefore, refrain from this evil which you are endeavoring to bring upon yourselves, and it will be better for you not to go to battle with them, although they are but few in numbers, because their God is with them. And when the kings of the Amorites heard all the words of their advisers, their hearts were filled with terror, and they were afraid of the sons of Jacob and would not fight against them. And they inclined their ears to the words of their advisers, and they listened to all their words, and the words of the counselors greatly pleased the kings, and they did so. And the kings turned and refrained from the sons of Jacob, for they durst not approach them to make war with them, for they were greatly afraid of them, and their hearts melted within them from fear of them. For this proceeded from the Lord to them, for he heard the prayers of his servants Isaac and Jacob, for they trusted in him. And all these kings returned with their camps on that day, each to his own city, and they did not at that time fight with the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob kept their station that day till evening opposite Mount Sihon. And seeing that these kings did not come to fight against them, the sons of Jacob returned home. Chapter 36. At that time the Lord appeared unto Jacob, saying, Arise, go to Bethel and remain there, and make there an altar to the Lord who appeareth unto thee, who delivered thee and all thy sons from affliction. And Jacob rose up with his sons and all belonging to him, and they went and came to Bethel according to the word of the Lord. And Jacob was 99 years old when he went up to Bethel. And Jacob and his sons and all the people that were with him remained in Bethel in Luz, and he there built an altar to the Lord who appeared unto him. And Jacob and his sons remained in Bethel 6 months. At that time died Deborah, the daughter of Uz, the nurse of Rebekah, who had been with Jacob. And Jacob buried her beneath Bethel under an oak that was there. And Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the mother of Jacob, also died at that time in Hebron. The same is Kiriath Arba, and she was buried in the cave of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth. And the life of Rebekah was 133 years, and she died. And when Jacob heard that his mother Rebekah was dead, he wept bitterly for his mother, and made a great mourning for her, and for Deborah her nurse beneath the oak. And he called the name of that place Alambakuth. And Laban the Syrian died in those days, for God smote him because he transgressed the covenant that existed between him and Jacob. And Jacob was 100 years old when the Lord appeared unto him and blessed him, and called his name Israel. And Rachel, the wife of Jacob, conceived in those days. And at that time Jacob and all belonging to him journeyed from Bethel to go to his father's house to Hebron. And whilst they were going on the road, and there was yet but a little way to come to Ephrath, Rachel bare a son, and she had hard labor, and she died. And Jacob buried her in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem, and he set a pillar upon her grave, which is there unto this day. And the days of Rachel were 45 years, and she died. And Jacob called the name of his son that was born to him, which Rachel bare unto him, Benjamin, for he was born to him in the land on the right hand. And it was after the death of Rachel that Jacob pitched his tent in the tent of her handmaid Bilhah. And Reuben was jealous for his mother Leah on account of this. And he was filled with anger, and he rose up in his anger and went and entered the tent of Bilhah, and thence removed his father's bed. At that time the portion of the birthright, together with the kingly and priestly offices, was removed from the sons of Reuben, for he had profaned his father's bed, and the birthright was given unto Joseph, the kingly office to Judah, and the priesthood unto Levi, because Reuben had defiled his father's bed. And these are the generations of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. And the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, the firstborn, and Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and their sister Dinah. And the sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, were Gad and Asher. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, were Dan and Naphtali. These are the sons of Jacob which were born to him in Paddan Aram. And Jacob and his sons and all belonging to him journeyed and came to Mamre, which is Kiriath Arba, that is in Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. And Jacob with his sons and all belonging to him dwelt with his father in Hebron. And his brother Esau and his sons and all belonging to him went to the land of Seir and dwelt there and had possessions in the land of Seir. And the children of Esau were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly in the land of Seir. And these are the generations of Esau that were born to him in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Esau were 5. And Adah bare to Esau his firstborn Eliphaz. And she also bare to him Ruel. And Ahlibamah bare to him Jeush, Yalam, and Korah. These are the children of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Eliphaz, the sons of Esau, were Timon, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, Kenaz, and Amaleks. And the sons of Ruel were Nakath, Zerach, Shammah, and Mizah. And the sons of Jeush were Timnah, Alva, Jetheth. And the sons of Yalam were Allah, Phinor, and Kenaz. And the sons of Korah were Teman, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Iram. These are the families of the sons of Esau according to their dukedoms in the land of Seir. And these are the names of the sons of Seir the Horite, inhabitants of the land of Seir: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishon, being 7 sons. And the children of Lotan were Hori, Heman, and their sister Timnah, that is Timnah, who came to Jacob and his sons, and they would not give ear to her. And she went and became a concubine to Eliphaz the son of Esau, and she bore to him Amalek. And the sons of Shobal were Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shephel, and Onam, and the sons of Zibeon were Ajah and Anna. This was that Anna who found the Yemen in the wilderness, when he fed the asses of Zibeon his father. And whilst he was feeding his father's asses, he led them to the wilderness at different times to feed them. And there was a day that he brought them to one of the deserts on the seashore, opposite the wilderness of the people. And whilst he was feeding them, behold, a very heavy storm came from the other side of the sea and rested upon the asses that were feeding there. And they all stood still. And afterward, about 120 great and terrible animals came out from the wilderness at the other side of the sea, and they all came to the place where the asses were, and they placed themselves there. And those animals from their middle downward were in the shape of the children of men, and from their middle upward some had the likeness of bears, and some the likeness of kephas, with tails behind them from between their shoulders reaching down to the earth, like the tails of the duchipath. And these animals came and mounted and rode upon these asses, and led them away, and they went away unto this day. And one of these animals approached Anna and smote him with his tail, and then fled from that place. And when he saw this work, he was exceedingly afraid of his life, and he fled and escaped to the city. And he related to his sons and brothers all that had happened to him, and many men went to seek the asses, but could not find them. And Anna and his brothers went no more to that place from that day following, for they were greatly afraid of their lives. And the children of Anna, the son of Seir, were Dishon and his sister Alibama. And the children of Dishon were Hemdan, Ishban, Ithran, and Shiran. And the children of Ezer were Bilhan, Zavan, and Akan. And the children of Dishon were Uz and Aran. These are the families of the children of Seir, the Horite, according to their dukedoms in the land of Seir. And Esau and his children dwelt in the land of Seir the Horite, the inhabitant of the land. And they had possessions in it, and were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob and his children and all belonging to them dwelt with their father Isaac in the land of Canaan, as the Lord had commanded Abraham their father. Chapter 37. And in the 105th year of the life of Jacob, that is the 9th year of Jacob's dwelling with his children in the land of Canaan, he came from Paddan Aram. And in those days Jacob journeyed with his children from Hebron, and they went and returned to the city of Shechem, they and all belonging to them, and they dwelt there. For the children of Jacob obtained good and fat pasture land for their cattle in the city of Shechem, the city of Shechem having then been rebuilt, and there were in it about 300 men and women. And Jacob and his children and all belonging to him dwelt in the part of the field which Jacob had bought from Hamor, the father of Shechem, when he came from Paddan Aram before Simeon and Levi had smitten the city. And all those kings of the Canaanites and Amorites that surrounded the city of Shechem heard that the sons of Jacob had again come to Shechem and dwelt there. And they said, Shall the sons of Jacob the Hebrew again come to the city and dwell therein, after that they have smitten its inhabitants and driven them out? Shall they now return and also drive out those who are dwelling in the city, or slay them? And all the kings of Canaan again assembled, and they came together to make war with Jacob and his sons. And Jashub, king of Tapnach, sent also to all his neighboring kings, to Elan, king of Gash, and to Ihure, king of Shiloh, and to Parathon, king of Shazar, and to Susi, king of Sartan, and to Laban, king of Bethoran, and to Shebar, king of Othnemah, saying, Come up to me and assist me, and let us smite Jacob the Hebrew and his sons, and all belonging to him, for they are again come to Shechem to possess it, and to slay its inhabitants as before. And all these kings assembled together and came with all their camps, a people exceedingly plentiful, like the sand upon the seashore, and they were all opposite to Tapnach. And Jashub, king of Tapnach, went forth to them with all his army, and he encamped with them opposite to Tapnach without the city, and all these kings they divided into 7 divisions, being 7 camps against the sons of Jacob. And they sent a declaration to Jacob and his son, saying, Come you all forth to us, that we may have an interview together in the plain, and revenge the cause of the men of Shechem, whom you slew in their city, And you will now again return to the city of Shechem and dwell therein, and slay its inhabitants as before. And the sons of Jacob heard this, and their anger was kindled exceedingly at the words of the kings of Canaan. And 10 of the sons of Jacob hastened and rose up, and each of them girt on his weapons of war. And there were 102 of their servants with them, equipped in battle array. And all these men, the sons of Jacob, with their servants, went toward these kings, and Jacob their father was with them. And they all stood upon the heap of Shechem. And Jacob prayed to the Lord for his sons, and he spread forth his hands to the Lord. And he said, O God, thou art an almighty God. Thou art our Father. Thou didst form us, and we are the works of thine hands. I pray thee, deliver my sons through thy mercy from the hand of their enemies, who are this day coming to fight with them, and save them from their hand, for in thy hand is power and might, to save the few from the many. And give unto my sons, thy servants, strength of heart and might to fight with their enemies, to subdue them and make their enemies fall before them. And let not my sons and their servants die through the hands of the children of Canaan. But if it seemeth good in thine eyes to take away the lives of my sons and their servants, take them in thy great mercy through the hand of thy ministers, that they may not perish this day by the hands of the kings of the Amorites. And when Jacob ceased praying to the Lord, the earth shook from its place, and the sun darkened, and all these kings were terrified, and a great consternation seized them. And the Lord hearkened to the prayer of Jacob, and the Lord impressed the hearts of all the kings and their hosts with the terror and awe of the sons of Jacob. For the Lord caused them to hear the voice of chariots, and the voice of mighty horses from the sons of Jacob, and the voice of a great army accompanying them. And these kings were seized with great terror at the sons of Jacob, and whilst they were standing in their quarters, behold, the sons of Jacob advanced upon them, with 112 men, with a great and tremendous shouting. And when the kings saw the sons of Jacob advancing toward them, they were still more panic-struck, and they were inclined to retreat from before the sons of Jacob as at first, and not to fight with them. But they did not retreat, saying, It would be a disgrace to us thus twice to retreat from before the Hebrews. And the sons of Jacob came near and advanced against all these kings and their armies. And they saw, and behold, it was a very mighty people, numerous as the sand of the sea. And the sons of Jacob called unto the Lord and said, Help us, O Lord, help us, and answer us, for we trust in thee. And let us not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men, who this day have come against us. And the sons of Jacob girt on their weapons of war, and they took in their hands each man his shield and his javelin, and they approached to battle. And Judah the son of Jacob ran first before his brethren, and 10 of his servants with him, and he went toward these kings. And Jashub, king of Tapnach, also came forth first with his army before Judah. And Judah saw Jashub and his army coming toward him. And Judah's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him, and he approached to battle, in which Judah ventured his life. And Jashub and all his army were advancing toward Judah, and he was riding upon a very strong and powerful horse. And Jashub was a very valiant man, and covered with iron and brass from head to foot. And whilst he was upon the horse, he shot arrows with both hands, from before and behind, as was his manner in all battles, and he never missed the place to which he aimed his arrows. And when Jashub came to fight with Judah, and was darting many arrows against Judah, the Lord bound the hands of Jashub, and all the arrows that he shot rebounded upon his own men. And notwithstanding this, Jashub kept advancing toward Judah to challenge him with the arrows, but the distance between them was about 30 cubits. And when Judah saw Jashub darting forth his arrows against him, he ran to him with his wrath-excited might. And Judah took up a large stone from the ground, and its weight was 60 shekels. And Judah ran toward Jashub, and with the stone struck him on his shield, that Jashub was stunned with the blow, and fell off from his horse to the ground. And the shield burst asunder out of the hand of Jashub, and through the force of the blow sprang to the distance of about 15 cubits, and the shield fell before the second camp. And the kings that came with Jashub saw at a distance the strength of Judah, the sons of Jacob, and what he had done to Jashub, and they were terribly afraid of Judah. And they assembled near Jashub's camp, seeing his confusion, and Judah drew his sword and smote 42 men of the camp of Jashub. And the whole of Jashub's camp fled before Judah, and no man stood against him. And they left Jashub and fled from him, and Jashub was still prostrate upon the ground. And Jashub, seeing that all the men of his camp had fled from him, hastened and rose up with terror against Judah, and stood upon his legs opposite Judah. And Jashub had a single combat with Judah, placing shield toward shield, and Jashub's men all fled, for they were greatly afraid of Judah. And Jashub took his spear in his hand to strike Judah upon his head, but Judah had quickly placed his shield to his head against Jashub's spear, so that the shield of Judah received the blow from Jashub's spear, and the shield was split in two. And when Judah saw that his shield was split, he hastily drew his sword and smote Jashub at his ankles, and cut off his feet, that Jashub fell upon the ground, and the spear fell from his hand. And Judah hastily picked up Jashub's spear, with which he severed his head and cast it next to his feet. And when the sons of Jacob saw what Judah had done to Jashub, they all ran into the ranks of the other kings. And the sons of Jacob fought with the army of Jashub, and the armies of all the kings that were there. And the sons of Jacob caused 15,000 of their men to fall. And they smote at them as if smiting with the gourds, and the rest fled for their lives. And Judah was still standing by the body of Jashub, and stripped Jashub of his coat of mail. And Judah also took off the iron and brass that was about Jashub, and behold, 9 men of the captains of Jashub came alone to fight against Judah. And Judah hastened and took up a stone from the ground, and with it smote one of them upon the head, and his skull was fractured, and the body also fell from the horse to the ground. And the 8 captains that remained, seeing the strength of Judah, were greatly afraid, and they fled. And Judah with his 10 men pursued them, and they overtook them and slew them. And the sons of Jacob were still smiting the armies of the kings, and they slew many of them. But those kings daringly kept their stand with their captains, and did not retreat from their places. And they exclaimed against those of their armies that fled from before the sons of Jacob. But none would listen to them, for they were afraid of their lives lest they should die. And all the sons of Jacob, after having smitten the armies of the kings, returned and came before Judah. And Judah was still slaying the 8 captains of Jashub, and stripping off their garments. And Levi saw Elon, king of Gash, advancing toward him with his 14 captains to smite him. But Levi did not know it for certain. And Elon with his captains approached nearer, and Levi looked back and saw that battle was given him in the rear. And Levi ran with 12 of his servants, and they went and slew Elon and his captains with the edge of the sword. Chapter 38. And Ahuri, king of Shiloh, came up to assist Elon, and he approached Jacob. When Jacob drew his bow that was in his hand, and with an arrow struck Ahuri, which caused his death. And when Ahuri, king of Shiloh, was dead, the 4 remaining kings fled from their station with the rest of the captains, and they endeavored to retreat, saying, "We have no more strength with the Hebrews after their having killed the 3 kings and their captains who were more powerful than we are." And when the sons of Jacob saw that the remaining kings had removed from their station, they pursued them. And Jacob also came from the heap of Shechem, from the place where he was standing. And they went after the kings, and they approached them with their servants. And the kings and the captains with the rest of their armies, seeing that the sons of Jacob approached them, were afraid of their lives, and fled till they reached the city of Shazar. And the sons of Jacob pursued them to the gate of the city of Shazar. And they smote a great smiting amongst the kings and their armies, about 4,000 men. And whilst they were smiting the army of the kings, Jacob was occupied with his bow, confining himself to smiting the kings, and he slew them all. And he slew Parathon, king of Shazar, at the gate of the city of Shazar, and he afterwards smote Susi, king of Sarton, and Laban, king of Bethchorin, and Shebar, king of Machnema. And he slew them all with arrows, an arrow to each of them, and they died. And the sons of Jacob, seeing that all the kings were dead, and that they were broken up and retreating, continued to carry on the battle with the armies of the kings opposite the gate of Shazar, and they still smote about 400 of their men. And 3 men of the servants of Jacob fell in that battle, And when Judah saw that 3 of his servants had died, it grieved him greatly, and his anger burned within him against the Amorites. And all the men that remained of the armies of the kings were greatly afraid of their lives, and they ran and broke the gate of the walls of the city of Shazar, and they all entered the city for safety. And they concealed themselves in the midst of the city of Shazar, for the city of Shazar was very large and extensive. And when all these armies had entered the city, the sons of Jacob ran after them to the city. And 4 mighty men, experienced in battle, went forth from the city and stood against the entrance of the city with drawn swords and spears in their hands. And they placed themselves opposite the sons of Jacob and would not suffer them to enter the city. And Naphtali ran and came between them, and with his sword smote 2 of them and cut off their heads at one stroke. And he turned to the other 2, and beheld they had fled, and he pursued them and overtook them, smote them, and slew them. And the sons of Jacob came to the city and saw, and behold, there was another wall to the city, and they sought for the gate of the wall and could not find it. And Judah sprang upon the top of the wall, and Simeon and Levi followed him, and they all 3 descended from the wall into the city. And Simeon and Levi slew all the men who ran for safety into the city, and also the inhabitants of the city with their wives and little ones. They slew with the edge of the sword, and the cries of the city ascended up to heaven. And Dan and Naphtali sprang upon the wall to see what caused the noise of lamentations, for the sons of Jacob felt anxious about their brothers. And they heard the inhabitants of the city speaking with weeping and supplications, saying, "Take all that we possess in the city and go away, only do not put us to death." And when Judah, Simeon, and Levi had ceased smiting the inhabitants of the city, they ascended the wall and called to Dan and Naphtali, who were upon the wall, and to the rest of their brothers, and Simeon and Levi informed them of the entrance into the city. And all the sons of Jacob came to fetch the spoil. And the sons of Jacob took the spoil of the city of Shazar, the flocks and herds and the property, and they took all that could be captured and went away that day from the city. And on the next day the sons of Jacob went to Sarton, for they heard that the men of Sarton who had remained in the city were assembling to fight with them, for having slain their king. And Sarton was a very high and fortified city, and it had a deep rampart surrounding the city. And the pillar of the rampart was about 50 cubits, and its breadth 40 cubits, and there was no place for a man to enter the city on account of the rampart. And the sons of Jacob saw the rampart of the city, and they sought an entrance in it, but could not find it. For the entrance to the city was at the rear, and every man that wished to come into the city came by that road and went round the whole city, and he afterward entered the city. And the sons of Jacob, seeing they could not find the way into the city, their anger was kindled greatly. And the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming to them, were greatly afraid of them, for they had heard of their strength and what they had done in Shazar. And the inhabitants of the city of Sarton could not go out toward the sons of Jacob after having assembled in the city to fight against them, lest they might thereby get into the city. But when they saw that they were coming toward them, they were greatly afraid of them, for they had heard of their strength and what they had done to Shazar. So the inhabitants of Sarton speedily took away the bridge of the road of the city from its place before the sons of Jacob came, and they brought it into the city. And the sons of Jacob came and sought the way into the city and could not find it. And the inhabitants of the city went up to the top of the wall and saw, and behold, the sons of Jacob were seeking an entrance into the city. And the inhabitants of the city reproached the sons of Jacob from the top of the wall, and they cursed them. And the sons of Jacob heard the reproaches, and they were greatly incensed, and their anger burned within them. And the sons of Jacob were provoked at them, and they all rose and sprang over the rampart with the force of their strength, and through their might passed the 40 cubits breadth of the rampart. And when they had passed the rampart, they stood under the wall of the city, and they found all the gates of the city enclosed with iron doors. And the sons of Jacob came near to break open the doors of the gates of the city, and the inhabitants did not let them, for from the top of the wall they were casting stones and arrows upon them. And the number of the people that were upon the wall was about 400 men. And when the sons of Jacob saw that the men of the city would not let them open the gates of the city, they sprang and ascended to the top of the wall. And Judah went up first to the east part of the city. And Gad and Asher went up after him to the west corner of the city, and Simeon and Levi to the north, and Dan and Reuben to the south. And the men who were on the top of the wall, the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming up to them, they all fled from the wall, descended into the city, and concealed themselves in the midst of the city. And Issachar and Naphtali that remained under the wall approached and broke the gates of the city, and kindled a fire at the gates of the city that the iron melted. And all the sons of Jacob came into the city, they and all their men, and they fought with the inhabitants of the city of Sarton, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and no man stood up before them. And about 200 men fled from the city, and they all went and hid themselves in a certain tower in the city. And Judah pursued them to the tower, and he broke down the tower, which fell upon the men, and they all died. And the sons of Jacob went up the road of the roof of that tower, and they saw, and behold, there was another strong and high tower at a distance in the city, and the top of it reached to heaven. And the sons of Jacob hastened and descended, and went with all their men to that tower, and found it filled with about 300 men, women, and little ones. And the sons of Jacob smote a great smiting amongst those men in the tower, and they ran away and fled from them. And Simeon and Levi pursued them, when 12 mighty and valiant men came out to them from the place where they had concealed themselves. And those 12 men maintained a strong battle against Simeon and Levi. And Simeon and Levi could not prevail over them. And those valiant men broke the shields of Simeon and Levi, and one of them struck at Levi's head with his sword. When Levi hastily placed his hand to his head, for he was afraid of the sword, and the sword struck Levi's hand, and it wanted but little to the hand of Levi being cut off. And Levi seized the sword of the valiant man in his hand, and took it forcibly from the man, and with it he struck at the head of the powerful man, and he severed his head. And 11 men approached to fight with Levi, for they saw that one of them was killed. And the sons of Jacob fought, but the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them, for those men were very powerful. And the sons of Jacob, seeing that they could not prevail over them, Simeon gave a loud and tremendous shriek, and the 11 powerful men were stunned at the voice of Simeon's shrieking. And Judah at a distance knew the voice of Simeon's shouting, and Naphtali and Judah ran with their shields to Simeon and Levi, and found them fighting with those powerful men, unable to prevail over them, as their shields were broken. And Naphtali saw that the shields of Simeon and Levi were broken, and he took 2 shields from his servants and brought them to Simeon and Levi. And Simeon, Levi, and Judah on that day fought all 3 against the 11 mighty men until the time of sunset, but they could not prevail over them. And this was told unto Jacob, and he was sorely grieved, and he prayed unto the Lord. And he and Naphtali his son went against these mighty men. And Jacob approached and drew his bow, and came nigh unto the mighty men, and slew 3 of their men with the bow, and the remaining 8 turned back. Behold, the war waged against them in the front and rear, and they were greatly afraid of their lives, and could not stand before the sons of Jacob, and they fled from before them. And in their flight they met Dan and Asher coming toward them, and they suddenly fell upon them, and fought with them, and slew 2 of them. And Judah and his brothers pursued them, and smote the remainder of them, and slew them. And all the sons of Jacob returned and walked about the city, searching if they could find any men. And they found about 20 young men in a cave in the city, and Gad and Asher smote them all. And Dan and Naphtali lighted upon the rest of the men who had fled and escaped from the second tower, and they smote them all. And the sons of Jacob smote all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton, but the women and little ones they left in the city, and did not slay them. And all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton were powerful men. One of them would pursue 1,000, and 2 of them would not flee from 10,000 of the rest of men. And the sons of Jacob slew all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton with the edge of the sword, that no man stood up against them, and they left the women in the city. And the sons of Jacob took all the spoil of the city, and captured what they desired. And they took flocks and herds and property from the city. And the sons of Jacob did unto Sarton and its inhabitants as they had done to Shazar and its inhabitants, and they turned and went away. Chapter 39. And when the sons of Jacob went from the city of Sarton, they had gone about 200 cubits when they met the inhabitants of Tapnach, coming toward them. For they went out to fight with them, because they had smitten the king of Tapnach and all his men. So all that remained in the city of Tapnach came out to fight with the sons of Jacob, and they thought to retake from them the booty and the spoil which they had captured from Shazar and Sarton. And the rest of the men of Tapnach fought with the sons of Jacob in that place, and the sons of Jacob smote them, and they fled before them, and they pursued them to the city of Arbelan, and they all fell before the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob returned and came to Tapnach to take away the spoil of Tapnach. And when they came to Tapnach, they heard that the people of Arbelan had gone out to meet them to save the spoil of their brethren. And the sons of Jacob left 10 of their men in Tapnach to plunder the city, and they went out toward the people of Arbelan. And the men of Arbelan went out with their wives to fight with the sons of Jacob, for their wives were experienced in battle, and they went out, about 400 men and women. And all the sons of Jacob shouted with a loud voice, and they all ran toward the inhabitants of Arbelan, and with a great and tremendous voice. And the inhabitants of Arbelan heard the noise of the shouting of the sons of Jacob, and their roaring like the noise of lions, and like the roaring of the sea and its waves. And the fear and terror possessed their hearts on account of the sons of Jacob, and they were terribly afraid of them. And they retreated and fled before them into the city. And the sons of Jacob pursued them to the gate of the city, and they came upon them in the city. And the sons of Jacob fought with them in the city, and all their women were engaged in slinging against the sons of Jacob. And the combat was very severe amongst them the whole of that day till evening. And the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them, and the sons of Jacob had almost perished in that battle. And the sons of Jacob cried unto the Lord, and greatly gained strength toward evening. And the sons of Jacob smote all the inhabitants of Arbelan by the edge of the sword, men, women, and little ones. And also the remainder of people who fled from Sarton. The sons of Jacob smote them in Arbelan. And the sons of Jacob did unto Arbelan and Tapnach as they had done to Shazar and Sarton. And when the women saw that all their men were dead, they went upon the roofs of the city and smote the sons of Jacob by showering down stones like rain. And the sons of Jacob hastened and came into the city and seized all the women and smote them with the edge of the sword. And the sons of Jacob captured all the spoil and booty, flocks and herds and cattle. And the sons of Jacob did unto Machnamah as they had done to Tapnach, to Shazar, and to Shiloh. And they turned from there and went away. And on the 5th day the sons of Jacob heard that the people of Gash had gathered against them to battle, because that they had slain their king and their captains. For there had been 14 captains in the city of Gash, and the sons of Jacob had slain them all in the first battle. And the sons of Jacob that day girt on their weapons of war, and they marched to battle against the inhabitants of Gash. And in Gash there was a strong and mighty people of the people of the Amorites. And Gash was the strongest and best fortified city of all the cities of the Amorites, and it had 3 walls. And the sons of Jacob came to Gash, and they found the gates of the city locked, and about 500 men standing at the top of the outermost wall. And a people numerous as the sand upon the seashore were in ambush for the sons of Jacob from without the city at the rear thereof. And the sons of Jacob approached to open the gates of the city, and whilst they were drawing nigh, behold, those who were in ambush at the rear of the city came forth from their places and surrounded the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob were enclosed between the people of Gash, and the battle was both to their front and rear, and all the men that were upon the wall were casting from the wall upon them arrows and stones. And Judah, seeing that the men of Gash were getting too heavy for them, gave a most piercing and tremendous shriek, and all the men of Gash were terrified at the voice of Judah's cry. And men fell from the wall at his powerful shriek. And all those that were from without and within the city were greatly afraid of their lives. And the sons of Jacob still came nigh to break the doors of the city, when the men of Gash threw stones and arrows upon them from the top of the wall, and made them flee from the gate. And the sons of Jacob returned against the men of Gash who were with them from without the city, And they smote them terribly, as striking against gourds, and they could not stand against the sons of Jacob, for fright and terror had seized them at the shriek of Judah. And the sons of Jacob slew all those men who were from without the city, and the sons of Jacob still drew nigh to effect an entrance into the city, and to fight under the city walls. But they could not, for all the inhabitants of Gash who remained in the city had surrounded the walls of Gash in every direction, so that the sons of Jacob were unable to approach the city to fight with them. And as the sons of Jacob came nigh to one corner to fight under the wall, the inhabitants of Gash threw arrows and stones upon them like showers of rain, and they fled from under the wall. And the people of Gash who were upon the wall, seeing that the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them from under the wall, reproached the sons of Jacob in these words, saying, What is the matter with you in the battle, that you cannot prevail? Can you then do unto the mighty city of Gash and its inhabitants as you did to the cities of the Amorites that were not so powerful? Surely to those weak ones amongst us you did those things, and slew them in the entrance of the city, for they had no strength when they were terrified at the sound of your shouting. And will you now then be able to fight in this place? Surely here you will all die, and we will avenge the cause of those cities that you have laid waste. And the inhabitants of Gash greatly reproached the sons of Jacob and reviled them with their gods, and continued to cast arrows and stones upon them from the wall. And Judah and his brothers heard the words of the inhabitants of Gash, and their anger was greatly roused. And Judah was jealous of his God in this matter, and he called out and said, O Lord, help, send help to help us and our brothers. And he ran at a distance with all his might, with his drawn sword in his hand, and he sprang from the earth, and by dint of his strength mounted the wall, and his sword fell from his hand. And Judah shouted upon the wall, and all the men that were upon the wall were terrified, and some of them fell from the wall into the city and died. And those who were yet upon the wall, when they saw Judah's strength, they were greatly afraid and fled for their lives into the city for safety. And some were emboldened to fight with Judah upon the wall, and they came nigh to slay him, when they saw there was no sword in Judah's hand. And they thought of casting him from the wall to his brothers, and 20 men of the city came up to assist them. And they surrounded Judah, and they all shouted over him, and approached him with drawn swords, and they terrified Judah. And Judah cried out to his brothers from the wall. And Jacob and his sons drew the bow from under the wall, and smote 3 of them that were on top of the wall. And Judah continued to cry, and he exclaimed, O Lord, help us. O Lord, deliver us. And he cried out with a loud voice upon the wall, and the cry was heard at a great distance. And after this cry he again repeated to shout, and all the men who surrounded Judah on the top of the wall were terrified, and they each threw his sword from his hand at the sound of Judah's shouting and his tremor, and fled. And Judah took the swords which had fallen from their hands, and Judah fought with them and slew 20 of their men upon the wall. And about 80 men and women still ascended the wall from the city, and they all surrounded Judah, and the Lord impressed the fear of Judah in their hearts, that they were unable to approach him. And Jacob and all who were with him drew the bow from under the wall, and they slew 10 men upon the wall, and they fell below the wall before Jacob and his sons. And the people upon the wall, seeing that 20 of their men had fallen, they still ran toward Judah with drawn swords, but they could not approach him, for they were greatly terrified at Judah's strength. And one of their mighty men, whose name was Arud, approached to strike Judah upon the head with his sword, when Judah hastily put his shield to his head, and the sword hit the shield, and it was split in 2. And this mighty man, after he had struck Judah, ran for his life at the fear of Judah. And his feet slipped upon the wall, and he fell amongst the sons of Jacob who were below the wall. And the sons of Jacob smote him and slew him. And Judah's head pained him from the blow of the powerful man, and Judah had nearly died from it. And Judah cried out upon the wall, owing to the pain produced by the blow, when Dan heard him, and his anger burned within him. And he also rose up and went at a distance, and ran and sprang from the earth, and mounted the wall with his wrath-excited strength. And when Dan came upon the wall near unto Judah, all the men upon the wall fled who had stood against Judah, and they went up to the second wall. And they threw arrows and stones upon Dan and Judah from the second wall, and endeavored to drive them from the wall. And the arrows and stones struck Dan and Judah, and they had nearly been killed upon the wall. And wherever Dan and Judah fled upon the wall, they were attacked with arrows and stones from the second wall. And Jacob and his sons were still at the entrance of the city below the first wall, and they were not able to draw their bow against the inhabitants of the city, as they could not be seen by them being upon the second wall. And Dan and Judah, when they could no longer bear the stones and arrows that fell upon them from the second wall, they both sprang upon the second wall near the people of the city. And when the people of the city who were upon the second wall saw that Dan and Judah had come to them upon the second wall, they all cried out and descended below between the walls. And Jacob and his sons heard the noise of the shouting from the people of the city, and they were still at the entrance of the city, and they were anxious about Dan and Judah, who were not seen by them, they being upon the second wall. And Naphtali went up with his wrath-excited might, and sprang upon the first wall to see what caused the noise of shouting which they had heard in the city. And Issachar and Zebulun drew nigh to break the doors of the city, and they opened the gates of the city and came into the city. And Naphtali leaped from the first wall to the second, and came to assist his brothers. And the inhabitants of Gash who were upon the wall, seeing that Naphtali was the third who had come up to assist his brothers, they all fled and descended into the city. And Jacob and his sons and all their young men came into the city to them. And Judah and Dan and Naphtali descended from the wall into the city and pursued the inhabitants of the city. And Simeon and Levi were from without the city, and knew not that the gate was opened. And they went up from there to the wall, and came down to their brothers into the city. And the inhabitants of the city had all descended into the city, and the sons of Jacob came to them in different directions, and the battle waged against them from the front and the rear. And the sons of Jacob smote them terribly, and slew about 20,000 of them, men and women. Not one of them could stand up against the sons of Jacob. And the blood flowed plentifully in the city, and it was like a brook of water, and the blood flowed like a brook to the outer part of the city, and reached the desert of Bethshoran. And the people of Bethshoran saw at a distance the blood flowing from the city of Gash, and about 70 men from amongst them ran to see the blood, and they came to the place where the blood was. And they followed the track of the blood, and came to the wall of the city of Gash. And they saw the blood issue from the city, and they heard the voice of crying from the inhabitants of Gash, for it ascended unto heaven, and the blood was continuing to flow abundantly like a brook of water. And all the sons of Jacob were still smiting the inhabitants of Gash, and were engaged in slaying them till evening, about 20,000 men and women. And the people of Chorin said, Surely this is the work of the Hebrews, for they are still carrying on war in all the cities of the Amorites. And those people hastened and ran to Bethshoran, and each took his weapons of war, and they cried out to all the inhabitants of Bethshoran, who also girt on their weapons of war, to go and fight with the sons of Jacob. And when the sons of Jacob had done smiting the inhabitants of Gash, they walked about the city to strip all the slain, and coming in the innermost part of the city, and farther on, they met 3 very powerful men, and there was no sword in their hand. And the sons of Jacob came up to the place where they were, and the powerful men ran away, and one of them had taken Zebulun, who he saw was a young lad and of short stature, and with his might dashed him to the ground. And Jacob ran to him with his sword, and Jacob smote him below his loins with the sword, and cut him in two, and the body fell upon Zebulun. And the second one approached and seized Jacob to fell him to the ground. And Jacob turned to him and shouted to him, whilst Simeon and Levi ran and smote him on the hips with the sword, and felled him to the ground. And the powerful men rose up from the ground with wrath-excited might, and Judah came to him before he had gained his footing, and struck him upon the head with the sword. And his head was split, and he died. And the third powerful man, seeing that his companions were killed, ran from before the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob pursued him in the city. And whilst the powerful man was fleeing, he found one of the swords of the inhabitants of the city, and he picked it up and turned to the sons of Jacob and fought them with that sword. And the powerful man ran to Judah to strike him upon the head with the sword, and there was no shield in the hand of Judah. And whilst he was aiming to strike him, Naphtali hastily took his shield and put it to Judah's head, and the sword of the powerful man hit the shield of Naphtali, and Judah escaped the sword. And Simeon and Levi ran upon the powerful man with their swords, and struck at him forcibly with their swords. And the two swords entered the body of the powerful man, and divided it in two lengthwise. And the sons of Jacob smote the three mighty men at that time, together with all the inhabitants of Gash, and the day was about to decline. And the sons of Jacob walked about Gash, and took all the spoil of the city, even the little ones and women they did not suffer to live. And the sons of Jacob did unto Gash as they had done to Sarton and Shiloh. Chapter 40. And the sons of Jacob led away all the spoil of Gash, and went out of the city by night. They were going out marching toward the castle of Bethchorin, and the inhabitants of Bethchorin were going to the castle to meet them. And on that night the sons of Jacob fought with the inhabitants of Bethchorin in the castle of Bethchorin. And all the inhabitants of Bethchorin were mighty men. One of them would not flee from before 1,000 men. And they fought on that night upon the castle. And their shouts were heard on that night from afar, and the earth quaked at their shouting. And all the sons of Jacob were afraid of those men, as they were not accustomed to fight in the dark, and they were greatly confounded. And the sons of Jacob cried unto the Lord, saying, Give help to us, O Lord, deliver us, that we might not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of the sons of Jacob, and the Lord caused a great terror and confusion to seize the people of Bethchorin, and they fought amongst themselves, the one with the other in the darkness of night, and smote each other in great numbers. And the sons of Jacob, knowing that the Lord had brought a spirit of perverseness amongst those men, and that they fought each man with his neighbor, went forth from among the bands of the people of Bethchorin, and went as far as the descent of the castle of Bethchorin, and farther, and they tarried there securely with their young men on that night. And the people of Bethchorin fought the whole night, one man with his brother, and the other with his neighbor, and they cried out in every direction upon the castle. And their cry was heard at a distance, and the whole earth shook at their voice, for they were powerful above all the people of the earth. And all the inhabitants of the cities of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and all the kings of Canaan, and also those who were on the other side of the Jordan, heard the noise of the shouting on that night. And they said, Surely these are the battles of the Hebrews, who are fighting against the 7 cities. Who came nigh unto them, and who can stand against those Hebrews? And all the inhabitants of the cities of the Canaanites, and all those who were on the other side of the Jordan, were greatly afraid of the sons of Jacob. For they said, Behold, the same will be done to us as was done to those cities, for who can stand against their mighty strength? And the cries of the Canaanites were very great on that night, and continued to increase. And they smote each other till morning, and numbers of them were killed. And the morning appeared, and all the sons of Jacob rose up at daybreak, and went up to the castle. And they smote those who remained of the Canaanites in a terrible manner, and they were all killed in the castle. And the 6th day appeared, and all the inhabitants of Canaan saw at a distance all the people of Bethchorin laying dead in the castle of Bethchorin, and strewed about as the carcasses of lambs and goats. And the sons of Jacob led all the spoil which they had captured from Gash, and went to Bethchorin, and they found the city full of people like the sand of the sea, and they fought with them, and the sons of Jacob smote them there till evening time. And the sons of Jacob did unto Bethchorin as they had done to Gash and Tapnach, and as they had done to Shazar and Sarton and to Shiloh. And the sons of Jacob took with them the spoil of Bethchorin, and all the spoil of the cities, and on that day they went home to Shechem. And the sons of Jacob came home to the city of Shechem, and they remained without the city, and they then rested there from the war, and tarried there all night. And all their servants together with all the spoil that they had taken from the cities, they left without the city. And they did not enter the city, for they said, Peradventure there may be yet more fighting against us, and they may come to besiege us in Shechem. And Jacob and his sons and their servants remained on that and the next day in the portion of the field which Jacob had purchased from Hamor for 5 shekels, and all that they had captured was with them. And all the booty which the sons of Jacob had captured was in the portion of the field immense as the sand upon the seashore. And the inhabitants of the land observed them from afar, and all the inhabitants of the land were afraid of the sons of Jacob who had done this thing, for no king from the days of old had ever done the like. And the 7 kings of the Canaanites resolved to make peace with the sons of Jacob, for they were greatly afraid of their lives on account of the sons of Jacob. And on that day, being the 7th day, Japhia, king of Hebron, sent secretly to the king of Ai, and to the king of Gibeon, and to the king of Shalem, and to the king of Adullam, and to the king of Lachish, and to the king of Shazar, and to all the Canaanitish kings who were under their subjection, saying, Go up with me, and come to me, that we may go to the sons of Jacob, and I will make peace with them, and form a treaty with them, lest all your lands be destroyed by the swords of the sons of Jacob, as they did to Shechem and the cities around it, as you have heard and seen. And when you come to me, do not come with many men, but let every king bring his 3 head captains, and every captain bring 3 of his officers. And come all of you to Hebron, and we will go together to the sons of Jacob, and supplicate them that they shall form a treaty of peace with us. And all those kings did as the king of Hebron had sent to them, for they were all under his counsel and command. And all the kings of Canaan assembled to go to the sons of Jacob, to make peace with them. And the sons of Jacob returned and went to the portion of the field that was in Shechem, for they did not put confidence in the kings of the land. And the sons of Jacob returned and remained in the portion of the field 10 days, and no one came to make war with them. And when the sons of Jacob saw that there was no appearance of war, they all assembled and went to the city of Shechem, and the sons of Jacob remained in Shechem. And at the expiration of 40 days, all the kings of the Amorites assembled from all their places and came to Hebron, to Japhia, king of Hebron. And the number of kings that came to Hebron to make peace with the sons of Jacob was 21 kings, and the number of captains that came with them was 69, and their men were 189, and all these kings and their men rested by Mount Hebron. And the king of Hebron went out with his 3 captains and 9 men, and these kings resolved to go to the sons of Jacob to make peace. And they said unto the king of Hebron, Go thou before us with thy men, and speak for us unto the sons of Jacob, and we will come after thee and confirm thy words. And the king of Hebron did so. And the sons of Jacob heard that all the kings of Canaan had gathered together and rested in Hebron. And the sons of Jacob sent 4 of their servants as spies, saying, Go and spy these kings, and search and examine their men, whether they are few or many, and if they are but few in number, number them all, and come back. And the servants of Jacob went secretly to these kings, and did as the sons of Jacob had commanded them. And on that day they came back to the sons of Jacob, and said unto them, We came unto those kings, and they are but few in number. And we numbered them all, and behold, they were 288 kings and men. And the sons of Jacob said, They are but few in number, therefore we will not all go out to them. And in the morning the sons of Jacob rose up and chose 62 of their men, and 10 of the sons of Jacob went with them. And they girt on their weapons of war, for they said, They are coming to make war with us. For they knew not that they were coming to make peace with them. And the sons of Jacob went with their servants to the gate of Shechem toward those kings, and their father Jacob was with them. And when they had come forth, behold, the king of Hebron and his 3 captains and 9 men with him were coming along the road against the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob lifted up their eyes and saw at a distance Japhia, king of Hebron, with his captains coming toward them. And the sons of Jacob took their stand at the place of the gate of Shechem, and did not proceed. And the king of Hebron continued to advance, he and his captains, until he came nigh to the sons of Jacob. And he and his captains bowed down to them to the ground. And the king of Hebron sat with his captains before Jacob and his sons. And the sons of Jacob said unto him, What has befallen thee, O king of Hebron? Why hast thou come to us this day? What dost thou require from us? And the king of Hebron said unto Jacob, I beseech thee, my lord, all the kings of the Canaanites have this day come to make peace with you. And the sons of Jacob heard the words of the king of Hebron, and they would not consent to his proposals, for the sons of Jacob had no faith in him, for they imagined that the king of Hebron had spoken deceitfully to them. And the king of Hebron knew from the words of the sons of Jacob that they did not believe his words. And the king of Hebron approached nearer to Jacob and said unto him, I beseech thee, my lord, to be assured that all these kings have come to you on peaceable terms, for they have not come with all their men, neither did they bring their weapons of war with them, for they have come to seek peace from my lord and his sons. And the sons of Jacob answered the king of Hebron, saying, Send thou to all these kings, and if thou speakest the truth unto us, let them each come singly before us. And if they come unto us unarmed, we shall then know that they seek peace from us. And Japhia, king of Hebron, sent one of his men to the kings, and they all came before the sons of Jacob and bowed down to them to the ground. And these kings sat before Jacob and his sons, and they spoke unto them, saying, We have heard all that you did unto the kings of the Amorites with your sword and exceedingly mighty arm, so that no man could stand up before you. And we were afraid of you for the sake of our lives, lest it should befall us as it did to them. So we have come unto you to form a treaty of peace between us, and now therefore contract with us a covenant of peace and truth, that you will not meddle with us, inasmuch as we have not meddled with you. And the sons of Jacob knew that they had really come to seek peace from them, and the sons of Jacob listened to them and formed a covenant with them. And the sons of Jacob swore unto them that they would not meddle with them, and all the kings of the Canaanites swore also to them, and the sons of Jacob made them tributary from that day forward. And after this, all the captains of these kings came with their men before Jacob, with presents in their hands for Jacob and his sons, and they bowed down to him to the ground. And these kings then urged the sons of Jacob and begged of them to return all that spoil they had captured from the 7 cities of the Amorites, and the sons of Jacob did so. And they returned all that they had captured, the women, the little ones, the cattle, and all the spoil which they had taken, and they sent them off. And they went away, each to his city. And all these kings again bowed down to the sons of Jacob, and they sent or brought them many gifts in those days. And the sons of Jacob sent off these kings and their men, and they went peaceably away from them to their cities. And the sons of Jacob also returned to their home to Shechem. And there was peace from that day forward between the sons of Jacob and the kings of the Canaanites, until the children of Israel came to inherit the land of Canaan. Chapter 4.
All right, we're going to stop there. But do you understand the power that we have when we come together and stop being afraid and call on the Most High before we make any move when dealing with our enemies? That's all it takes. That's what this chapter is teaching you. When we're together and we call on the Most High, we are undefeated. Nothing can defeat us. But unfortunately, we live in this land, and the Edomites have put so much fear in our people, they're afraid to at least even try. As you can see, at the sight of the brothers, armies fled. Just the sight of them made these armies flee. And they killed armies, they killed kings. And the thing is, you saw what happened. They were bowing, the kings were bowing down to the 12 tribes in Jacob. Okay? The kings were afraid of them, and they were bowing down to them and left them, when they gave them gifts, ladies and gentlemen, they left them very wealthy. Those were not little riches. They were big astronomical gifts from those kings. So when those kings left and went back to their cities, the 12 tribes in Jacob were mad buku rich. Okay. I mean, but this is something I really wanted you to hear in the book of Jasher. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we are feared today. We are feared today because they know if we come together, nothing can defeat us. See, your enemy already knows this about you. They already know this about you. It's just that now they just got some of our people so afraid they won't even try. But we got power in numbers. That's what this is showing us. As long as we stay together and as long as we call upon the Most High, nothing is going to happen to you. You're going to be fine. Oh, we are unstoppable when we're all together. That's the thing. That's what this is showing you. It is showing you, look, this was Jacob's sons against armies, and they could not be defeated. And you saw Judah at one point got cornered with nothing but a shield, and they still couldn't kill him. That should say a lot right there. They could not kill him with nothing but a shield in his hand, because the Most High heard his cries and made sure those men turned to each other and they start slaughtering each other, and they left Judah completely alone. They didn't touch Judah. And your enemies today would be equally as scared if we would just come together. Our battle cry is the name of the Most High. Once we do that, nobody can touch us. Yes. This is, ladies and gentlemen, now you know the importance of this book. Not just the 5-hour book of Jasher, but the whole 13 hours that we're going over right now. The power is in the book. And this is what the elites use to learn about the 12 tribes, which is us. See, the elite, they know who we are. They know who we are. They know what your power is. They know what you can do. These other ones walking around talking about they got high IQs, they don't know nothing. They're idiots. They don't know anything. But the elites do know exactly who we are. And they know the Most High is real. They know it. Why do you think they're building bunkers to go underground? They know he's real. They're not stupid. Yeah, I mean, the power is in our numbers. Absolutely. That's right. Psalms 83. That's right. Oh, yeah. You know, Kia, a lot of Hollywood movies came out of the Bible. They don't have no imagination like that. Okay. These folks don't have no imagination like that. They have to get a lot of their stories out of the Bible. No, the bunkers are coffins, Anthony. Really, what they did was they dug out their own coffin. That's all those bunkers are at the end of the day. Is when they go down in it, they're as good as gone, and that's their coffin. But our ancestors were undefeated. And you saw how they also talked about their ancestors. You know, those things are really important. So it's good that we got up to the battles. This was really the part I really wanted you to hear. I'm glad you got a chance to listen to that, but the rest of this book is equally as good. So you definitely, try not to miss any of the weeks. So we're up to chapter 41. We're going to pick up with chapter 41 next week. So we got about 6 hours down. So we still got a little over 7 hours to go on this. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of things coming. We didn't get those blood moons for no reason, y'all. There is a lot of death and destruction coming to America. I was just looking online, and this morning it said the death toll from Hurricane Florence is now up to 44. So, the Most High, his wrath is no joke. And yeah, he can bring that wrath in a storm. And that number has been going up steadily almost every day. It's going up. Oh, yeah. All right, y'all. This was a really good session that we had. But I'm going to end the hangout now. But, each lesson will get better and better, especially with this book. I'm also looking forward to doing the Book of Enoch with you, the complete book. And also the Book of Jubilees. We definitely got to get to the Book of Jubilees as well. Yeah. Yeah. But I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody and enjoy the rest of your day. And I know some places you're still day and some of you are approaching your evening. And we'll be meeting again to do this again next week. Peace, family.